Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Canada. Did I say it right? Because I said it earlier, and I was like, hey, y'all. And they're like, no, we have a new word here. It's y'all, So what I want to, first of all, I want to thank Chantal and Adara. I mean, look at this group. It's unbelievable what they've done. And to pull it together the way that you did. But I think I'd be remiss if we did not thank the author, Sharon Lechter, who has spent her entire life, her entire career, helping other people be better. And I think it's a big lesson, and I think it's a big takeaway for every one of us in this room, that we have a responsibility to pay it forward. And I see that from my dear friend, Sharon Lechter, every single day. So there are so many times that you never know that you might meet somebody that needs you, that needs your help, that needs your influence. So I want you to consider that. Even somebody as successful as Sharon still pays it forward every single day. And I'm speaking on behalf of her, but not with her permission, just so you know. This is just Lisa going off the top of her head, knowing Sharon like I do. And so I hope that everybody today walks away with one thing they can do for themselves and one thing they can do for somebody else. So when you exchange business cards and when you meet somebody and you see somebody's business, I want you to think about how can you help that woman? How can you help her business? Because you see, that's what makes the world go round. So what I'm going to be speaking on today is Crushing Mediocrity, and that's the book that I co-authored with my best friend, Renee Bangelsdorf. So I'm a former automotive dealer. I sold my store 2 years ago. We were #1 in the United States for Fiat Alfa Romeo sales. And my young millennial and female sales team broke the world sales record for Fiat in 2012. Now, the whole world said that we couldn't do it. Why couldn't we? Because we're a bunch of girls? Maybe. Because we were in a 6,000 square foot facility. Most car dealerships are about 36,000. Maybe. But you see, what we decided is that we were going to build a movement within the automotive industry, and that's what we're going to talk about with Crushing Mediocrity. Crushing Mediocrity is the book that Renee and I wrote once I sold the store. But you see, Crushing Mediocrity isn't about, it is about not living in the middle, not being mediocre. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's okay to be mediocre if you want to be in the middle class. But if you want to be in the world class, you have to absolutely crush it. Who in this room wants to be in the world class? World class in your business, world class in your community. And I'm going to tell you another thing, how we are crushing mediocrity today. We have people represented in this room, women from every country. And today it isn't about the Texan from the United States. Nobody even asked me who I voted for. Thank you. Really, thank you. And it isn't about Canada and the US, and we had a wonderful lunch with a woman from India, and she told us her story. We were at the BMW dealership last night. I had the honor of working with some of their female employees, and I walked in, so BMW is a German brand. Well, I was an Italian car dealer. I couldn't even put an American flag in my car dealership because it was not brand appropriate. I walked in last night and see all the lanterns for the Chinese New Year today, so all of our friends out there from China, Happy New Year. And does that mean we have cocktails tonight for that, to celebrate? Hey, anytime, every day is New Year for me. But just the inclusiveness of what you guys do in Canada, it's so inspiring. But just the fact today that many of us came together from many different countries, many different nationalities, many different beliefs, political beliefs, and all of it was thrown out the window today, right? Because we're all here to come together to think and grow rich. And yes, rich is a bank account, but it's also a thought process. Because the richer you are in your thoughts, and the more that you're willing to give to others, the more your bank account will grow, I promise. So this was the cover of our book, and Renee and I, we kind of like those red bottom shoes. Now, I'm not wearing them today because they make my feet hurt, but those were actually our shoes. But it was 10 ways to rise above the status quo. And what's interesting, well, first of all, I want to say Sharon Lechter wrote the foreword to our book, and so we're forever grateful for that. And I remember asking her, because Renee, my co-author, was like, do you think we can get Sharon Lechter to write the book? I'm like, I don't know. She's written 30 million books. And she's like, Lisa, no, she's really a big deal. But you need to get it done. You're the car salesman. So anyways, I am the one that got it done. Just saying. But it's really about crushing it. And there's so many times in life, and talking to so many of you, that there's times that you have to walk away from a situation. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's a partnership. But I want to tell you guys this. I want to make sure you've got a really good pair of heels on, so that when they see the smoke from your heels, that they've got red bottoms on them, right? Because as women, sometimes that's going to be our power, is how we walk away. We don't need to just like walk away from a situation like this. When we make the decision to walk away or to move forward, you do it with your head high and the best pair of shoes on that you own. Yeah, thank you. So the first chapter in our book is underlying purpose, but of course definiteness of purpose is Napoleon Hill. Now, we didn't steal it from Napoleon Hill because I think we were on the same page. I like to say we were as smart as Napoleon Hill, but we weren't. But absolutely. But I want to ask everybody in this room today, because this is the number one thing that if you want to write down what Lisa taught you, is do you believe that what you do matters? Do you believe that what you do matters every single day? Because if you don't, you're not living in your purpose. Example of a purpose-driven. Think about our firefighters, our first responders, our military. Do you think any of them do it for the hazard pay? Do you think any of them do it for combat pay? No. They do it because they know that they were called to defend our nations, to protect the weak, to be a first responder in a natural disaster. That's why they do it. So for me to give the best example of definiteness of purpose, that's a job. But how many people in this room believe that what you do matters and that your job or your career or your business is purpose-driven? You get up every single morning because what you do matters. You see, I lived some of my darkest days in the automotive industry. Fiat was a tough brand in the U.S. We went through a lot of stop sells and things like that. But see, I never came back to be a car dealer because I wanted to sell cars. I came back to revolutionize the auto industry. That was my purpose. So on my darkest, toughest days, what I would say was, you know what, I can't quit. Because if I quit, I'm going to let a lot of people down. My employees, I'm going to let down an industry of women that absolutely root for me. I had a lot of guys that rooted for me too. And that's the other thing when I talk about purpose. I love getting in a room full of women. But you know what? There's a lot of really great guys out there. And even though I spent a lot of years in a male-dominated industry and felt like I had to fight harder sometimes, I was the only woman that sat on the National Dealer Council. There was 18 of us that governed all of the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Ferrari, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Fiat dealers in the country. And I was the only woman. And people said to me, oh, did you get appointed to that because you're a woman car dealer? I said, no, I got appointed because I'm the #1 car dealer in the nation. That's why I got appointed to it. But you guys, we have to own that. It's so hard for women to own that, to be able to say that. And there were other #1 dealers in the room, other #1 dealers around the country. It probably helped that I was a female and high profile. But how are you going to raise your profiles? Within your respective industries, within your communities? Just like Sharon said, you have got to claim, you have to own the fact that you are the expert. See, if you ask me, I am the expert in the automotive industry. Why? Because I say so. Really. I mean, it isn't like to own a car dealership or be a car salesman, you have to have a bunch of diplomas on the wall. And honestly, if I'm out there and I say to you, I'm the best car dealer in the country, I'm the expert in the auto industry, are you going to argue with me? Am I going to argue with you if you tell me that you are the expert in your field? I'd be like, dang, I just met the expert in that field. Seriously. You've got to own it. Sharon talks about it. I talk about it. You've got to own. Please, who in this room is going to own the fact that they are the expert in their industry in anything they do? That's it. So, how do you derive your purpose? There's a lot of people, and they say to me, they're like, Lisa, I don't know, what is my purpose? I'm 45 years old. I've stayed home with kids. Now I'm going back to school, or I'm deciding that I'm going to go, build a second career. How do I decide what my purpose is? I always thought my purpose was to raise kids. And I say, for that season in life, if that's what you believed, then that was your purpose. But see, legacy, and one of the reasons Renee and I wrote the book is because we wanted a legacy thing. And it kind of started one night over a glass of wine. It was pretty funny. So we're talking, and I said, hey, just so you know, I want you to write my eulogy if I ever die and give it. Because I know my crazy friends will show up at my funeral, and God only knows. I mean, it'll end up being a roast versus a funeral. And she said, okay, well, me too. And we started talking, and the wine was flowing, and she was finishing her degree in journalism. She had gone back late in life, as you get to read her story. And she was finishing it, and she said, but you know what? This is really going to be our legacy book. Because her and I both wanted to write business books, which we're each writing one right now. She said, let's get this one on the maps. Let's get this one printed. It's our legacy. Because, see, your legacy is not your end-of-life story. It's your everyday story. And the good news about legacy is that you can write a book. Renee and I are now writing volume 2. The legacy's changed in the last 2 years. We've met more amazing people. More amazing things have happened to us. We've learned more lessons along the way. So what I thought was my legacy and would have been written or read at my funeral 2 years ago, oh, it's even better now. There's a lot of better stories, won't lie. And so that's where, so many people think, I'm going to live the end of my life to my, and that will end up being my legacy. No, you write your legacy. You write it yourself. Do not, because I will tell you this, if you don't tell your own story, somebody else will. And I will tell you this, they will screw it up. Okay? You're in charge of your legacy. It's your everyday story, not your end-of-life story. So designing your life is designing your purpose statement. Ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? Am I here to be a mom, a wife, a caregiver, a businesswoman, or just a good human being? Check, 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 all the above, most likely. Purpose. What is the purpose of my life? What is it that you would do if there was no glory or no money? What is it? And that's hard to say because there's a lot of things that we'll all do for the money, and there's a lot of things that several people would do to get famous. But that's not your underlying purpose, that's your job. Your underlying purpose is, if you don't get paid and you don't get the glory, what is it? Importance. What are the important things that you want to accomplish from your life? And I want to tell you, we've got young ladies in here that are 15 years old, and we might have them that are 150 years old. Who knows? Because with Botox, we all look amazing. So it's not a problem. I cannot tell how old any woman or man is anymore because we're all just like, pulled up. Anyways, but that being said, you're allowed, remember, because I said your legacy is fluid. And every single day and every single way you have the right to change it, to alter it, to fix it, or to rewrite it. So that being said, what is it that's important to you today? Because when we wrote our book, things that were important to me 2 years ago, I could care less about now. Checked it off my list. I'm over it. Time to move on. All right? And then fulfillment. What fulfills you among all other things? I used to say when I was in the auto industry, it was to watch the young ones that worked for me succeed. I had a young woman, and she was the receptionist. And she came in my office one day, and she said, I want to start selling cars. And I was like, even I was doubting her. I thought, she answers phones. What does she know about selling cars? And I said, why? Why would I put you in that spot? And she said, because I want your job someday. All right, so she immediately got the job. In my whole career, no one ever had the guts to say that to me, but here's something for us ladies as part of our legacy. See, you cannot be what you cannot see. So as leaders in this room, it is our responsibility to be relatable role models to those that look up to us, both men and women. Because nobody can be what they can't see. And I still believe that that young woman would probably still be a receptionist if there was a male dealer. And that isn't to knock the male dealers. It's just that she doesn't want to be him when she grows up. Right? And so, I want everybody in this room charged with the fact that you will be a relatable role model. Because otherwise, this is all for naught. Sharon and I came from the United States, and then they put this event on for naught. Because this isn't about us. It's about every single one of you. And Sharon talks about the fact that we're here to serve you. But I'm only going to serve you if you commit to serve others. And then if you commit to be a relatable role model. Because there's so few of us in the world. I was about to say in America. I've got to keep remembering where I'm at. I'm in Canada. And so, you have to commit to that. We have a very dear friend, Sharon and I, and she started an Audible newsletter called on-the-woman.com. It's free. You guys should subscribe. But it's 4 minutes a morning. Comes in at 6 a.m. 4 minutes a morning, and she profiles relatable role models. And the whole deal behind her business model is that women don't get enough relatable role models. I mean, we can look at Sheryl Sandberg. We love her. Oprah, we love her, of course. Do I want to hang out with Oprah? Yeah. Am I going to? No. So most likely, but I have met several of the relatable role models that I listen to in those mornings. So everybody, no matter what your level is, we all need a role model. We all need someone to aspire to. I'm very lucky I get to hang out with the author over there quite a bit. Not enough, but so who is that person that not only you could look up to, but who is it that you could give back to? That is fulfillment. The second part of crushing mediocrity. So once you've decided what your life purpose is, and it may be really audacious, like you might decide, hey, I want to change the world. That's what Elon Musk said. He ended up in the car business. But he didn't, but he got in the car business because he wanted to change the world. He wanted to develop sustainable energy, so he built a battery. Now, what am I going to do with this battery? Oh, I guess I'm going to build a car. And that's what he did. Tom Shoes. The owner's name's not Tom. And he was traveling around the world, and he was in third world countries, and he thought it was absolutely deplorable that children in these third world countries did not have shoes on their feet. So when he came back, he said, I'm going to start a charity for shoes so that I can get shoes into third world countries for these children. Well, he went to several manufacturers, and they're like, nah, no, we're not going to do that. So what did he do? He's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to start a shoe company. Because if I own a shoe company, I can sell one pair, and I can give another, and it will fund my charity. So he was never in the shoe business. He was in the business to change the world. He was purpose-driven. So sometimes when you decide what your purpose is, it's going to take you down a crazy road. So Tom Shoes is over $1 billion company now. And I just think that that's just God-honoring good behavior. Because there's a lot of kids out there that have shoes now. So once you have and you've determined that underlying purpose, the next thing we have to do is the scariest thing you'll ever do. You got to do it. Chapter 2 of our book is exiting your comfort zone. How hard is that with a show of hands? When you're like, I got this really great idea, this is what I'm going to do, but oh God. And then you wake up the next morning, and maybe even sober up in my case, and you're like, oh God, so how am I going to do that? Right? It's like taking the step, A, first, right? The first step. And that's what you have to do. I guess the A didn't catch because y'all always say that. So I'm trying to play to my crowd here in Canada. All right, so how do you push yourself out of your comfort zone? So number one, you have decided and you have determined what your definiteness of purpose is. So you got that, check the box. How to get out of your comfort zone. Number one, you have to take the first step. To me, the first step has always been when I've got some kind of audacious, crazy goal or whatever it is that I say it out loud. Because I'm a firm believer if you say it out loud, the universe will hold you accountable, plus anyone standing in the room with you. Number two, you've got to put yourself in a new environment. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. See, today, what every one of you did is you put yourself in a new environment. You're in a new environment. You're meeting new people. But it'll be up to you what you do with these connections. That's on you. Are you going to change the world? Are you going to be a relatable role model? Are you going to get out of your comfort zone? Have you met somebody today, and maybe you haven't met him yet, and you're going to call him tomorrow and invite him to coffee or to tea or to Skype or whatever it may be? See, success is up to you. And you don't pick a safe choice. See, getting out of your comfort zone's not about safe. It's about changing the world. Now, and when I say changing the world, you don't have to be Elon Musk or Tom Shoes. I want you to change your world. Because if you change your world, you will change the world around you. This is a big one. You've got to consider other points of view. We live in a society today, more so probably in my country than yours, that's very, very polarized. And I have a heckler in the back. It's good. That's good. But it's very, very polarized. And what happens is that if I don't agree with you and you don't agree with me, we can't just have a civil conversation anymore. We have to insult each other. I have to not be your friend anymore. And then we're going to write stupid things on social media. I mean, everyone in this room should be thrilled you did not have to go through the American presidential elections. But all of my Canadian friends were sending me stuff. I'm like, guys, stop. I get it. But it doesn't matter. The right, the left, the blue, the red, that doesn't matter. It's the fact that we are all human beings. And we have got to be able to disagree and respect each other's points of view. Just like you are hosting Sharon and I in your country. That's wonderful. I mean, you guys, you don't have to be as gracious as you've been, but you are. And I will tell you, I do find Canadians very gracious. Yes, I'm very much a fan. So consider other points of view. Be open to them. Have debates. I'm not telling you guys to stand down. But what I'm telling you is, it doesn't have to be an attack. And it doesn't have to polarize, and you don't need to, lose friends over it. But be the person that starts that. Be the person who no longer has to insult people, call them names, because that's just being a bully. To get out of your comfort zone, you've got to say yes more often. See, it's so easy to say no. When you're challenged, when you're uncomfortable, when you're out of your comfort zone, how many times when you guys are like, someone asked you to do something big and audacious, like I think about, Adara and Chantal. This was a big undertaking. I know because Sharon and I put one of these on in Austin, Texas. I can't tell you the amount of work it takes to put on this event. See, she could have just said no. They both could have just said no. Nah, we're good. But instead, they stepped out of their comfort zone. They made a lot of connections. I know that there's a lot of table leaders here. I know there's a lot of influencers in this room that they brought together, and all of you brought in your tribes. But see, it could have started with a no. But both of those ladies stepped out of their comfort zone and they asked for help because I know that there was, again, a lot of influencers and sponsors that made this thing happen. Do what you're afraid of. I was with the team last night from BMW in Vancouver. And as I was talking to some of their salespeople, I said, what are you guys afraid of? Oh, we don't like to negotiate. I'm afraid of a no. I'm afraid to ask somebody to buy something. I'm afraid. I said, what is the worst thing they can do to you? She said, say no. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. Because I have a word for people that say no to me. Next. I'm moving on. Right? So, what is it you're afraid of? What is it that's holding you and your business back from going to the next level? You're going to get some no's. What's the word? Next. There's a lot of people on this planet. And just on this continent alone, we're good. You don't want to do business with me? I'm over it. And you guys should feel the same way. And then you want to create challenges to push yourself in areas you want to improve. Like for me, I think, I have the time now to go exercise every morning at 6 a.m. That was like one of the things I did when one of the things I wanted to do when I retired. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be so skinny and fabulous, and I'm going to go to the gym every day, and oh, look at me. Oh yeah, okay, I'm 2 years out, 20 pounds heavier. Yeah. So, but what do? Right? It's like you have the best of intentions. Am I going to beat myself up over it, or am I just going to go have a good time with a bunch of fabulous people all around the world? I choose you. All right, the third part to crushing mediocrity, to truly crushing it in life and in business, is you've got to remain teachable. How many people in the world do we know that know it all? Usually they're male. Now, I love men. I work with men, so I'm not, and most of my clients are men, so this is not a man-bashing thing, but I'm telling you right now, they're the know-it-alls. So how do we remain teachable? Because, see, today you're teachable. Today you're here to learn something. Who came here today to learn something? Right. We're teachable. Who here today feels like like everything you've heard from all of our amazing speakers, are like, I already knew all that. Right? How many people in this room have been inspired already by the ladies that have already spoken? How many of you guys have learned something? Right. There's power in numbers. You've got to remain teachable. You have to admit your mistakes, and then you correct them. So many women, especially, they sit back about what happened 5 years ago. Life is fluid. Move on. Admit it, correct it, move on. Never stop learning. There's a reason that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Find a mentor. Sharon talked about that earlier. There's coaches and there's mentors. Coaches are there to take you to the next level and to help you get there. A mentor is there to open their Rolodex and help and leverage their influence to take you to the next level. Awareness. You guys have got to stay in control of your thoughts, because the thing that will bring you back or bring you down faster than anything is what's up here. It's all that negative self-talk. It's that one person, when you gave him the idea for that business, or you gave him that idea for your life, they go, oh, are you kidding me? I mean, when I told people that I knew I was going to invest my life savings bringing fiat back to America, which left as fix-it-again Tony in the land of trucks and SUVs, I cannot even tell you the naysayers. But something right here in my gut said, you know what? It's going to be okay. You're probably not going to get rich doing it, whatever. But it's probably going to be okay. And this is going to be your only opportunity to put your thumbprint on this industry. So what is the one thing that you want to do that you can leave your imprint either on the planet or in your industry? Listen to this. Listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. Don't listen to the naysayers, unless it's your bank, your spouse, and even at that, spouses and family a lot of times are your worst critics. So a lot of times you have to cut that noise out too. Take notes. Probably one of the highest signs of respect to anybody. If I'm sitting down with somebody and I'm discussing their business with them or I'm consulting with them, I take notes. Number one, my brain, there's no way I'd remember any of it. And number two, it's the highest sign of respect, because I know when I'm taking notes, I'm not thinking about something else. I'm not distracted. I am in the moment. I am present. That's probably the hardest thing for everybody in this room, because we're females, is to be present. We're thinking about our kids. We're thinking about our jobs. We're thinking about our spouses. We're thinking about what's going on at work. We're thinking about what we have to do tonight. We're thinking about carpool. If you're Chantal, you're thinking about being in your car. Where's she at? Like 14 hours a day, driving her kids everywhere. So we're very distracted. But if you find yourself, if you will take notes in whatever you do that's important, you will remain present. And then lastly, I want you to stay curious. There's a reason that young children say, why? Why? I've got a 5.5-year-old grandson who's just the cutest thing you ever want to see in your life. I'm obsessed with him. But we have this running joke. It's like, Lala, why? And I'll go, what, Eli? And he'll go, why, Lala? Because he knows. I'm like, you're driving me crazy with all the whys. And he'll go, why? And so I say to him, what? Well, why do you ask me what? But, there is something to say about having curiosity of a child. Because when we're curious, not only about our businesses, but about each other, when I'm more interested in how I can serve you than what you're going to do for me, your business will explode. Because I believe that the universe explodes behind you. And this is a really, really hard one. But it's critical to crush mediocrity. It's recovering from failure. See, we all fail. Who in this room hasn't failed? Did you just put your hand up? Okay. The next book I write is going to be with you about how not to fail. I can say personally I've had more failures than I've had success. And I will talk more about the failures than the success, because, so many times, I believe you have to fail forward. So many times you have to fail forward to understand, okay, well, that's not the way to do this. I'm going to go, I went to the left, now I'm going to go to the right. So how do successful leaders recover from failure? Number one, you move on, okay? You move on. It does not need to define you. Failure does not define you. It's a roadblock, or it's a road bump. Number four, analyze what went wrong. You need to know what happened. You need to know why it happened. A lot of times we need to fix our failure. Sometimes there's an amends, sometimes there's an apology, sometimes whatever it may be. Apologize quickly and own up for it, but then be done with it. You don't need to come back to me or to anyone else 5 years later and go, hey, don't you remember? It's like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. You've made your amends. We're good. Move on. Because as women, we like to apologize. And we tend to live in fear and in shame. You can't. You can't. You have to move on. Make it right and move on. And then have a good attitude about failure. I used to tell my salespeople, we actually had metrics in the car business. So we knew that for every 9 people that came to the dealership, 1 would buy a car. So I would have this young sales team, and they'd be discouraged. And I'd say, well, how many people have you talked to so far today that didn't buy a car? 6. I said, go back out and get 3 more no's, and you're going to sell something. Really. But that's how you have to see it. Does everybody in this room sell something for a living? Right. You're selling yourself, if nothing else. Establish your authority and your credibility. That goes back to, you are what kind of expert? Says who? That's it. Again, nobody's going to argue with that. They will not argue with it, but you have to believe it yourself. You've got to believe it to your very core that you are the expert and that nobody can take that away from you. And how does credibility play into it? Another thing I find with women is that you don't talk about what made you the authority. These women last night that I was with at BMW, I said, she was talking about a great review she had gotten. And I said, great, did you put it on your social media and your LinkedIn? She's like, I didn't even think about it. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't start singing your own praises, nobody else will. You have to take control of the narrative when it comes to you, your career, and your life. You've got to control the narrative or somebody else will. You know, in the world of social media, the world of LinkedIn, whatever it may be, you're going to have to tell your story because if you don't, someone else will. So here we go. To be the best you in business and in life, these are it. You've got to establish your credibility and your authority. And I want to hit on something when it comes to credibility. I would challenge every one of you to write a 2 paragraphs of what you've done the last 2 years. Because what I have found, no one really cares at our age what we did in college. Thank God. I'm actually pretty thankful for that one. Or what you even did 5 or 10 years ago. Because see, that was 5 or 10 years ago. And you're now 2 years farther down the path. But I want to challenge you to write that story. I want to challenge you to write your story. I want to challenge you to show that to 3 people that love you. 2 of them being friends and 1 of them being a family member. Because you know the family member is just going to kick you around on it. But it might be a little bit of perspective, but your friends. And say, is this accurate? And I will bet everyone in this room, I don't know how much money I've got on me, but a glass of Prosecco, that your friends will tell you, you know what? You understated that. I think you're really fabulous because, you know, what I saw is you did this, 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 and this. You should add that to your story. Okay? Then you get that story in your head. You get that story in your heart. You get that story into your talking tracks. That's how you establish credibility. You're not bragging. You're just telling your story to somebody who asked. You need to provide real value, of course, to people. You know, there's nothing worse than somebody who's in business and it's all smoke and mirrors. You've got to be consistent. Consistency is everything when it comes to crushing mediocrity and crushing it in business and in life. You can't be this person today, this person tomorrow, this person in front of your friends, this person in front of your family. Figure out who you are. Write that story. Get those 2 paragraphs going. Then become that person every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Engage your community. That's what you guys are doing here today. How many people here have met somebody new that you think, I'm going to keep up with this person. I really like them. Yeah. So every time we show up for events like this, not only do we engage our community, but we expand our community. I've expanded my community. I know Sharon has too. If you guys want to invite me back, invite me in June. I'm just saying. It's a little cold here for this girl. Building relationships with experts and influencers. If everybody in this room is the expert, as Sharon says, shouldn't we all know each other? Don't we believe that there's nobody in this room that's any better than the other one? They just tell a better story. I can out-story some of you guys because I've been trained to do it. So now this is my pay it forward. I'm teaching you how to do it. Build your social authority, LinkedIn around your expertise, of course. You've got to be honest, knowledgeable, and confident. This is what it takes to crush it in business. So I'd love to stay connected with you guys because I really mean it from my heart. You know, that Sharon and I, and sometimes I go out on my own and Sharon goes out on her own, or we go out together. But nothing, see, when I'm living my underlying purpose, when I'm doing what I know I'm supposed to do, I'm standing on a stage like this. I would rather do this than sit in a high level, a big paying gig, because I'm a consultant. But this means more to me because I do believe that you guys will leave this place today and that you'll pay it forward. You're going to write your story. You're going to show it to 3 people, edit it, and then send it to someone for editing, like I have to do. And then you're going to start telling that story because you're going to own your story. And once you own your story, you're going to realize that there's nobody out there that's better than you, that's more successful than you. You're going to be like, no, this is my story. And I'm really great at what I do. And what I do matters every single day. And once you can own those thoughts, once you can own that, you will be unstoppable. You will be crushing it at every level. I just want to encourage you. You don't want to live in the middle. Really, nobody, tell me in this room, nobody wants to live in the middle, do you? No. You got one time around this sun. And some of us have a longer runway than others. Although I've met some amazing women today who tell me they have all kinds of great anti-aging everything. So I'm like, I'm your customer no matter what. And I think it's easier to get stuff in Canada than it is the US. I don't think you guys are quite as regulated. So all those ones, I'll be sure you have my home address. But that being said, you've got to own this. We have this much time to do this much work. Who in this room is going to take the time you have left, as Sharon would say, one big life, have the time you have left and make an impact so that the day you're gone, they'll never forget you? Who in this room? That's it. Right. Your job after you leave here today is to change the world. I want you to start with your world because you have to start somewhere. But that alone will impact the rest of the world. And we're going to learn and we're going to show everybody that we can come together as women and as business professionals, no matter what country we're from, no matter what color our skin is, no matter what our religion is, no matter what our politics are. And we're going to come together to unite to raise other women and men because they need us too. Every man has a mom, believe it or not. So there is a soul in some of them somewhere down low. And it may be us to bring it out. So the great ones learn how to work together. I've always worked with men. I like working with men 90% of the time. So it's learning that balance. But it'll be easier for you to work with men if you've got a story, if you are bought into your story, if you're the expert, if you believe your own press. Because remember, you're going to write your own press. You're going to write your own story. Nobody can take it away from you. Whether you're black, white, woman, man, it doesn't matter. It's your story and you're the expert. So this is how we'd love to stay connected. Renee and I would like to offer everybody a copy of our book. We're going to send it to you on soft copy, Crushing Mediocrity. So you're going to text to 444999. That's the number. And all capitals, crush it. And that's our gift to you because we truly want everybody we know around the world to commit, to crush mediocrity, to be the biggest you. And I promise you, the world will change for you. The world will open up for you. But again, starting today, you've made the first step. So I want to thank you for being an amazing and gracious audience. You guys are awesome. You're crushing it. And thank you.